The open ocean is a realm of absolute unpredictability, where the line between a luxury vacation and a desperate fight for survival can vanish in a matter of hours. The maritime industry has witnessed countless tragedies, but the story of the MTS Oceanos stands entirely on its own. It is a documented historical event that perfectly illustrates the sheer, unyielding power of nature, the catastrophic consequences of mechanical failure combined with human negligence, and the extraordinary courage of ordinary people who stepped into the void when official leadership completely collapsed. This is the factual account of the final voyage of the MTS Oceanos. In August 1991, the Oceanos was chartered by TFC Tours, a South African travel company, to conduct a series of leisure cruises along the southern coast of the African continent. The itinerary for this specific voyage began in Cape Town, with the ship scheduled to sail eastward and northward along the coast, making stops at major regional ports. The fatal leg of the journey was the transit from the port of East London to the port city of Durban. This specific route forces vessels to navigate the waters of the Eastern Cape, an area notoriously known among global mariners as the Wild Coast. The danger of the Wild Coast lies in its unique oceanographic and meteorological conditions. The powerful Agulhas current flows swiftly southward along the edge of the continental shelf. During the southern hemisphere's winter months, severe weather systems push massive wind-driven swells northward from the Antarctic. When these massive swells collide directly against the fast-moving southward current, the friction creates abnormally steep, towering waves that place immense structural stress on any vessel caught in them. On August 3, 1991, the Oceanos was docked in East London, preparing for the overnight passage to Durban. The vessel carried 571 people, consisting of South African passengers and a multinational crew led by Greek senior officers, including Captain Yanis Avranas. The departure was severely delayed. Local authorities received a bomb threat directed at the ship, forcing a complete halt to operations while security personnel conducted a thorough sweep of the vessel. The threat was ultimately deemed a hoax, but the delay had severe consequences. It meant the Oceanos departed East London significantly behind schedule, pushing her transit through the treacherous Wild Coast deeper into the night and directly into a rapidly intensifying winter storm. As the Oceanos cleared the harbor and entered the open waters of the Indian Ocean, the weather conditions deteriorated with alarming speed. The ship was soon facing gale-force winds reaching 40 knots and massive swells measuring up to 9 meters in height. The Oceanos, lacking the advanced computer-controlled stabilization systems of modern megaships, began to pitch and roll violently in the heavy seas. The severe motion caused widespread seasickness, and the scheduled evening entertainment in the ship's main lounge was sparsely attended as passengers sought refuge in their cabins. Waiters struggled to maintain their footing, and loose items cascaded across the decks. The fatal blow to the Oceanos was not a collision, but a catastrophic internal failure exacerbated by the violent sea state and highly questionable maintenance protocols. Deep within the lower decks, in the engine compartment, a critical component known as the sea chest failed. A sea chest is a recess built into the hull below the waterline, housing intake valves that draw in seawater necessary for cooling the ship's massive diesel engines and generators. Sometime around 9:30 p.m., a pipe connected to this vital system ruptured. Under standard maritime safety regulations, watertight doors dividing the lower compartments should have been securely locked while underway in a storm to contain any potential flooding. However, on the Oceanos, several of these crucial watertight doors had been left open by the engineering crew. Furthermore, investigations later revealed that the ship's drainage and sewage systems lacked essential non-return valves. As seawater blasted into the engine room, it flowed unimpeded through the open doors into the generator room. Simultaneously, the immense pressure of the incoming water backed up through the ship's plumbing, causing raw sewage and seawater to violently erupt from toilets and shower drains in the lower passenger cabins. The rising floodwaters quickly inundated the ship's electrical generators. They short-circuited, plunging the entire vessel into darkness, broken only by the dim glow of emergency lights. More critically, the loss of electrical power meant the main diesel engines ceased to operate. The Oceanos lost all propulsion. Without forward momentum, the ship's rudder became useless. The furious wind and waves quickly pushed the drifting vessel into the trough of the sea, turning her broadside to the massive oncoming swells. This is the most dangerous orientation for a ship in a storm, as it maximizes the rolling motion and the risk of capsizing. As the weight of the water in the lower decks increased, the Oceanos developed a severe, irreversible list to her starboard side. It is at this point that the disaster took a shocking turn. Standard maritime procedure dictates that in the event of a catastrophic failure, the captain sounds the general alarm, alerts the passengers via the public address system, and coordinates the crew to prepare for an orderly evacuation. None of this happened. No alarms sounded. No official announcements were made. When passengers and junior staff ventured into the tilting corridor seeking information, they discovered a horrifying reality. The ship's senior command structure had completely dissolved. Captain Avranas and several of his senior officers had already proceeded to the boat deck, boarded one of the first lifeboats lowered from the port side, and abandoned the sinking vessel. Hundreds of passengers were left entirely unaware of the extreme danger, stranded on a dying ship without any official leadership or evacuation plan. In the complete absence of the captain and senior crew, the ship's civilian entertainment staff stepped into the void, preventing a massive loss of life. Moss Hills, a British musician who played guitar in the ship's band, along with his wife Tracy Hills, cruise director Robin Boltman, and magician Julian Butler, realized the gravity of the situation. Moss Hills navigated the slanted, dark corridors to the bridge, finding it completely abandoned. Having no formal maritime training, he located the VHF radio and tuned it to channel 16, the international distress frequency. He began broadcasting a continuous Mayday call, alerting authorities in South Africa and nearby merchant vessels that the Oceanos was sinking. The South African authorities launched a massive rescue operation, but a sea extraction was deemed impossible. Commercial ships that arrived at the scene could not safely launch boats or pull alongside the Oceanos due to the extreme 9-meter swells. Approaching the wildly rolling cruise ship risked a catastrophic collision. The only option was a highly dangerous airborne evacuation. To execute this unprecedented airlift, a fleet of 16 military helicopters, primarily Pumas and Alouette 3s, was urgently deployed. As dawn broke on August 4th, the helicopters arrived in the turbulent air above the sinking liner. South African Navy divers were lowered onto the sloping decks to assist the entertainment staff. The operation was incredibly perilous. The helicopters had to hover directly over the ship, carefully avoiding the ship's tall mast and rigging wires that swung violently with every roll of the vessel in the heavy seas. The entertainment staff and the Navy divers worked exhaustively on the slick, angled deck, keeping passengers calm and strapping them into rescue harnesses. The helicopters flew in a continuous, grueling relay for over 7 hours, hoisting people up 2 by 2, flying them to shore or nearby merchant ships, and returning for more. Moss Hills, Julian Butler, and the rescue divers were among the very last people to be airlifted from the deck. Shortly after the final survivors were pulled to safety, the MTS Oceanos succumbed to the sea. The vessel rolled completely onto its starboard side, exposing its red hull. The heavy bow dipped beneath the surface, lifting the stern and the propellers high into the air. Water rushed into the funnels, and the massive ship slid forward, sinking bow first into the depths of the Indian Ocean. In an outcome considered a maritime miracle, all 571 passengers and crew members survived without a single fatality. The event remains a definitive historical case study, highlighting the catastrophic consequences of compromised shipboard integrity, the total failure of maritime command, and the profound, life-saving impact of civilian heroism in the face of absolute disaster. Following the miraculous rescue, a Greek maritime board of inquiry was convened to investigate the disaster and the conduct of the senior crew. The board officially found Captain Yanis Avranas and 4 of his senior officers guilty of negligence for their handling of the emergency and for abandoning the vessel while hundreds of passengers remained in danger. However, the final punishment they received shocked both the maritime community and the public. Despite the official guilty verdict for negligence, Captain Avranas and the fleeing officers faced no criminal charges and served absolutely no prison time. Avranas never went to jail. Even more surprisingly, his employer, Eperotiki Lines, did not fire him. Instead, the company simply reassigned him, and he later served as the captain of a passenger ferry until his official retirement. The lack of severe legal consequences for the captain remains one of the most controversial and frustrating aspects of the MTS Oceanos disaster.